Good evening. Just to continue where we kind of left off on the Royal Institute for International Affairs, alias Chatham House, alias secret society that runs the world on behalf of the British monarchs. All of them understand the religious joke for 2000 years, and there is the religious joke manifest on the company check website with the maRIIA joke. Yeah, that's the Ma joke about the mother of God. Yeah, and that's the massive joke about the creator of our universe and the human deviants that have taken over the role of our deities, okay, using the virgin concept, and that is the concept laughed at globally by everyone from the T-Mobile purchasers to the Easter egg rollers in Holy Week. It's really, really sad. The Mother of God is the joke about the Royal Institute for International Affairs, and it's got a hyphen in it, and that's ever so posh. It has no business premises because all of this is just a fraud. Okay, let's go back to where we left off last night or earlier today, and that is in the declaration that Michael Moore is a chartered accountant. And we were profiling the corporate members that sponsor this massive fraud, and we were onto the, let me see if I can scan into this, because the images that I've looked at on the previous video that we made are very indistinct. Okay, let's just zoom in a little bit on that. Right, that's better. Yeah, even if you've got a slanted mind's eye, you should be able to see that now. There we go. Institute of Chartered Accountants in England and Wales. Yeah, so Michael Moore calls himself an Irishman. He's registered as the Secretary of State for Scotland. He has nothing on Hansard because he's a criminal. Yet he runs the Ellis Moore Empire. He runs the Westminster Foundation for Democracy scams in league with the Douglas Home family, the boss at Melrose and Porteous, and the local solicitors cabal that are totally twisted. And when I mentioned that to people in the supermarket yesterday, most of them are now beginning to realise it, because they watch my videos and they know of the characters that are in charge of the law courts around here, and they know that it is just a stitch up. Intesa Sanpaolo SPA, Japan Bank for International Cooperation. The Japanese are now subjected to hyperinflation again because they're using a policy called quantitative easing, and their man's name, for a laugh, I was referred to someone called Max Kaiser yesterday by financial experts. Yeah, I've been in contact with Max Kaiser since I came home from New Zealand as a political activist. Only once or twice did he reply. Yeah, RT, for whom he works, are a massive set of financial criminals. They engage the people that are the crime scene detectives, aka the Poirot family. Yeah, they do the reporting for RT, and it is totally twisted. Jones Lang LaSalle. Yeah, like the Julius woman. KPMG LLP, Kuwait Petroleum Corporation, Letter 1, Libra Group, Linklaters, Lockheed Martin UK, that's where Stephen Harper gets his illicit aeroplanes from, Marsh, MetLife, Mitsubishi Corporation, Morgan Stanley, Natixis, Nomura International PLC. Let's see if I get a better result if I perch it on my little box, because I can go right up to the screen on the little box, and that's because my veins and my arteries are filled with conducting fluids, but the cardboard should insulate us and get us really up close and comfy. Okay, Marsh, MetLife, Mitsubishi Corporation, Morgan Stanley, Natixis, Nomura International PLC, Oliver Wyman, PricewaterhouseCoopers. So we've got PwC, we've got KPMG, and we had one other of the big auditors, and I think it was Deloitte's, but one of them is still missing, and that's quite intriguing, because usually now all of the scams and the advice that the scamsters need is given by the big four auditors. Rabobank International, Raytheon, Rio Tinto PLC, that's one of the Queen's holdings in Australia. Royal Bank of Scotland, Santander, another New World Order bank, the Racing Red Stable, okay, Rory the golfer, Rory, is it McIntyre, the golfer with the Santander t-shirt, yeah, Saudi Petroleum Overseas Limited, Schlumberger Limited, Standard Chartered Bank, Strasfreiberg, Sumitomo Corporation. That could have been the people that were involved in the explosion of the pharma factory in India, but I don't believe so. Tesco, Thomson Reuters, that's the news agency, that's the Thompson twins, that is the joke about Tintin, yeah, the private investigator with his trousers tucked in his socks. United States of America, Embassy of the United States of America. You do not get bigger in fraud than that linkage. Vodafone Group, that's the link back to the Chip and Norton set, and the boss at Vodafone, who I've forgotten the name of, but we could have a quick look on the on my website. Okay, I'm going to come out of that for a few seconds and see what's on the next page. Oh, standard corporate members. This is just the run-of-the-mill profiteering. Atheron, Africa Practice, Airbus Group, AKE Limited, Albany Associates International, Allen and Overy LLP. The ovary joke, the Madam B ovary joke, over and over and over again. It's kind of like the chicken and egg joke. Anglo-American PLC, APCO Worldwide, ArcelorMittal, the steel magnates, Asai Shimbum Europe, Aspen Insurance UK Limited, AstraZeneca PLC, Avio Group, Aviva, AXA Investment Managers, Banca d'Italia, Bank of Tokyo, Mitsubishi UFJ, Bell Pottinger, BlackRock Investment Management UK Limited. That could be the BlackRock in Edinburgh, could be the BlackRock that failed to deliver any of their contracts in Iraq. Bland Group Limited, British Council, Boeing UK, that's the Airbus wars, yeah, the Concorde issues, all of the massive profiteering involving Major's government, Thatcher's government, and all of the governments since. That's Tony Blair. That is the Lib Dem coalition with the Tories, CBS News, CDC Group PLC, Chivas Brothers, Chubb Investment Services. The ordinary people are no longer allowed to make whisky in their own home. You're allowed to do it in New Zealand, but before I left they were at pain to point out that what you need to do is to make sure that you've got ethanol in there and not methanol, because that will blind you like the acts of God that get to some of these people. Chubb Investment Services Limited, Chubu Electrical Power Co Inc, Cleary, Gottlieb, Steen and Hamilton LLP. I knew the Hamilton name would come into it. Very strong Germanic influence. CLP Holdings Limited, Colour Capital, Commonwealth Parliamentary Association. Here we go again. We're in the Houses of Parliament, we're pretending that we're interested in giving the commons wealth all across the Commonwealth. It's a scam. Commonwealth Secretariat, those are the people that sell the laws of succession for a bung. Consolidated Contractors International UK Limited, Crown Agents, CRU International, that's like the Crown removal firm that work with Michael Moore's P&O shipping empire, also with strong interests from the George Bush dynasty, yeah, and Crown are the people that took our kit out there, and it's very expensive to pay for you to bring it back. When you get booted out of the university for trivial things that were not explained to you until within 2 weeks of the departmental review, and my predecessor, a man called Jackson, was booted out on exactly the same set of flimsy premises, because he's relatively innocent and he's unprepared to profiteer in pharma and healthcare frauds, and he's not prepared to sell his new country to the Crown like the rest of the professoriate do, with names like Barclay and Tucker. Yeah, and it is absolutely amazing how the whole world has been sold into slavery by the Crown, and they're illegitimate for 160 years. CRU International Limited, Daily Mail and General Trust plc, Davis Polk and Wardwell LLP, De Beers Group Services UK Limited. Do you now begin to see it? That's De Beers, run by Templesman, Jackie O's third partner, for profit and under the orders of the world owners. Without any conscience, she's prepared to bury her first husband, who wanted to take the democracy that is America back into democratic hands and to fund it through its central or federal bank. Yeah, and that's the De Beers that were on board the Lockerbie plane, De La Rue plc, Delanex Energy, Department of Health UK. Can you see now why it's being asset stripped, and why the CPD and the complete retraining of every qualified healthcare profession for every year in practice is the only thing that will give you the right to work in that profession? It is a massive scam, and I don't think the woman from the Royal Society that I talked about last night understood the gravity of my statements on that issue, but that's the sector that she works in, relentlessly overworked. Diageo, Diplomatic Academy of Montenegro, DP World, Energy Charter Secretariat, the Green Scamsters, Energy Industries Council, all of the virtual products frauds that run through the Rothschilds controlled Lothian 50 network, and all of the Lothian Road Ponzi shelves for Bill Gamel's fraud network. It is massive. Energy Intelligence Group, yeah, that's the insurers again, that's the Intel, that's MI5, that is MI6, that's Miss Manningham Buller, that is Richard Dearlove and all of his twisted colleagues, and the heads of the Met Police. ESKO, Eurasia Group, European Bank for Reconstruction and Development, European Investment Bank, European Parliament UK Office, First Magazine, G3, Good Governance Group, General Secretariat of the Council of, wait for it, the European Union, stitched up from beginning to end. Every one of the little innocent countries that has lost its own currency and is now enslaved by the euro. It's a death trap. There is no way out of it. When you lose access to the issuance of your money for your country, it's a tragedy, but Britain's savvy enough to persecute the Eastern European nations by retaining its right to release its own pound, but only to the elite people that are on the board at the Bank of England, and some of them are lowlifes from the union movement. The Group, The Guardian, HM, Treasury, Her Majesty's Treasury, Standard Corporate Members. Isn't that criminal? when they openly state it on their 4-page PDF. www.chathamhouse.org/sites/files/Chatham House, all one word, /media_/2014/112/1208 supporters 1314. I think that's the year for the Battle of Culloden. Having a little laugh. Okay. House of Lords. Where did we get to? House of Commons Library. HM Treasury. There you go. Run by Danny Alexander. Yeah. Nick Clegg is on the list of the 300 Committee, the Committee of 300, Hong Kong Economic and Trade Office. House of Commons Library. House of Lords Library. Indorama Services UK Limited. INPEX International Institute for Environment and Development. Investcorp International Limited. Investec Asset Management, also on the rugby jerseys around the world. Invoke Capital, ITN, that's Michael Grade, all of the Zionist leaders. Yeah, the man who made the Chariots of Fire film, all of them are at the take and are releasing false news to cover up their massive financial frauds. Jaguar Land Rover, Japan Oil, Gas and Metals National Corporation, Jogmec JICA UK Office, JKX Oil and Gas, John Swire and Sons Limited, Kokusai Asset Management Co Limited, Cosmos Energy, Kroll, that's really sinister, that's Kroll Securities, run by Israeli tank commanders and prime ministers and MI6 leaders from all over the English speaking world. Kroll Corp, Kuwait Investment Office, Kyodo News, League of Arab States, Macquarie Group, Marathon Oil Corporation, Maritime Asset Security and Training Limited, Matheson and Co, that's the Michael Matheson, the deployment of the Scottish Justice Minister from Falkirk, where I have new and very committed friends. Millbank, Mitsubishi Heavy Industries Europe Limited, Mitsui & Co Europe plc, Mizuho Bank, Mondelez International, Mondai Group, Nepad Secretariat, Nexen Petroleum UK Limited. Yeah, as if we were sucking it out of the ground. Yeah, most of those are virtual products frauds. Nikkei Inc, Norwegian Peacebuilding Resource Centre, the Olion Group, Alter Radio IT, that's radio owned by Berlusconi's people, yeah, who are prepared to defame the British princes when they need to. Okay, Oric Permira Advisors LLP, Petrofac Energy Developments, PolestarGlobal.com, Polish Institute of Diplomacy. Yeah, the free Polish director numbers are still registered in London. I can give anybody that wants them a PDF on that. That's in peacetime in London in 2015. The Polish Institute of Diplomacy. Pool RE, Powers Court. My town is riddled with Polish people. Some of them are in Intel, some of them sell ice cream. All of them are involved in the religious frauds. All of them are here to see what it's like, and they're becoming aware what it could be like if they were actually able to take control of their own country. And the amount of money that is spent on investigating people who are freedom fighters in their own country is just obscene. See the video I made earlier on the Facebook page, and all of the phone calls you get when you're trying to reveal the secrets of our governments and our monarchy in inverted commas. Premier Oil, Protection Group International, Prudential plc, Quakers in Britain. Yeah, like my mate who was my fishing buddy in New Zealand, a Quaker trained in Auckland. Yeah, and all of them are traitors to my cause. He's a professor in the arthritis sector. I forget what you call that as a scientific discipline. A very, and he's the one that we invited to Britain, and we got him a day's fishing on the most elite salmon pool, and the flood that ensued was quite dramatic. Risk Advisory Group, Rolls Royce PLC, that's Alexander, Dame Ali, oh shit, there's hundreds of them. RSA Insurance, Salamanca Risk Management, Saracen and Partners LLP, SCE Svenska Celusa, Acti Bolaget, Schroders PLC, Scottish Government sold their souls. Sherman and Sterling LLP, that's the Scottish Government who fund, from their trickle down from the corrupted Westminster Government, Chatham House and its secret societies, and they fund the retention of the constitutional monarchy that they pretended to be contesting in the referendum. Scottish Government. Shearman and Stirling LLP, Standard Life Group, that's where my pensions have been crashed. Yeah, even before my wife threatens to take half of them from me. Strategy and Sullivan and Cromwell LLP, a name hated all over the world. Sumitomo Mitsui Banking Corporation, Europe Limited, Tata Limited, Telegraph Media Group, the posh newspaper, lovely crossword when I was gullible enough to listen to the cricket on the radio and think it was a real competition that meant anything. Thales, Tishman Spear, Tokyo Electric Power Company, TEPCO, Towers Watson, Tullow Oil PLC, UBS, that's the bank that has got the massive unpaid cheque for bread and cramps, war crimes and the selling of his munitions, his nuclear weapons and all of the landmines that Princess Diana died in protest about. Vitol, Warburg Pincus LLC, Wilton Park, Wood Mackenzie, Young Iura, Shimbun, Embassy and High Commission members. This is a secret society in London for the benefits of the Crown. Algeria Embassy of, Argentine Republic Embassy of, Armenia Embassy of, Australia High Commission of, Austria Embassy of, Azerbaijan, that's Armenia where the genocide was committed around the acquisition of the Russian steppes and the Gallipoli massacre, Azerbaijan Embassy of the Republic of, Bahrain, Belgium, Belize, Brazil, Bulgaria, Canada, Chile, fascist Chile where Pinochet came from, China where all of the government members are millionaires but socialists and communists, Costa Rica, Cyprus, Czech Republic, Denmark, Dominican Republic, Ecuador, Egypt, El Salvador, Estonia, Ethiopia, Republic of Finland, France, Embassy of, that's revolutionary France, yeah, where Marx is in the commune that shares everything that it generates locally with its people. Georgia, Germany, Gibraltar. Germany's still a federal republic despite the monarchy claims that they have all through the regions. Gibraltar, government of, Greece Embassy of, Hungary Embassy of, India High Commission of, Indonesia, Iraq Embassy of the Republic of, Ireland Embassy of, Israel Embassy of, Italy Embassy of, Japan Embassy of, Jordan, Khazakstan, yet where Tony Blair's still got massive holdings with the man who's the boss there, who killed his own brother to be the boss there. Korea Embassy of the Republic of, Kuwait Latvia, Libya, Lithuania, Luxembourg, Macedonia, Malta, Mexico, Moldova, Mongolia, Morocco, Mozambique, Republic of Netherlands, Embassy of the Kingdom of the New Zealand, High Commission of Norway, Oman, Embassy of the Sultanate, Pakistan, Islamic Republic of Poland, Embassy of the Republic of... So this is the Islamic republics that interlock with the Queen, and that is the Islamic republics that the Queen's forces and all of our intel agencies and all of the drone manufacturers zap, because what they want to do is create fiction and war to cover their financial sins. They're totally in charge of every profit stream that comes from those persecuted countries. Poland, Embassy of, Portugal, Embassy of, Qatar, Romania, Russian Federation, Embassy of the Rwanda where the genocide occurred, for Bob Geldof and the scamsters in the charities, St Kitts and Nevis, Saudi Arabia, Serbia, Seychelles, Sierra Leone, more genocides, Singapore, Slovak Republic, Slovenia, South Africa, High Commission for the Republic of, ghettos expanded tenfold since Mandela sold his country to the IMF in the massive toxic debt pool. Spain, Embassy of Sudan, Embassy of the Republic of Sweden, Embassy of Switzerland, strictly neutral, Embassy of profiteering. Tanzania, High Commission of the United Republic of Trinidad and Tobago, Republic of Tunisia, Turkey, Ukraine, United Arab Emirates, Uruguay, Uzbekistan, Venezuela, Vietnam, Yemen, Zambia. That takes us back to the Mark Twain story about Becky Thatcher and the Indians raping and pillaging her because she was nubile and well built. The whole of world history is a fraud for a laugh and for profiteering motives. NGO, that's the non-governmental action aid charities, Amnesty International, make the false news movies using Phoenix Film Partners, Michael Grade's input, and all of the BBC crimes, the Fox News crimes, and the Rupert Murdoch network through the CIA and into power. Children's Investment Fund Foundation concern worldwide. European Interagency Security Forum, International Committee of the Red Cross. That's what I'm not allowed to talk about for fear of conviction. International Medical Corps UK, Overseas Development Institute, ODI. Bill ODI. Safe World, World Animal Protection, the scams about the World Wildlife Fund, the land grabs, and the capacity to cover your sins as a tyrant and land grabber by killing rare species like the Dutch monarchs do, the royal princes now do, and Prince Philip did with Augusto, because he killed tigers in 1960 and put them right in front of the camera and right in front of the elephants. That is the joke about Hannibal that keeps coming into the fraud stories. Okay, academic institutional members, Brunel University, many colleagues there. We took students into the welcome from Brunel and they were really innocent, some of them. I was in love with Jane Hales. Her name means hell, and she ended up working for a Swiss chocolate firm out of St Albans in Hertfordshire, where the abbey, the monastery is. ESCP, Europe Business School, Good Enough College, King's College London, Department of Political Economy, King's College London, and this is a strange affiliation, Department of War Studies, London School of Economics, Department of International Relations, Nanyang Technological University, Rajaratnam School of International Studies. They've got the word rat in that, like the Aryan myths. But he does not sound like one of the master race people. Osaka University School of International Public Policy, Regent's College Department of International Relations, Regent's College, European Business School, Richmond University, the American International University in London, Royal College of Defence Studies. Why would we need defence? The whole world is suppressed by this team. Yeah, it's very, very aggressive. It's all over, I believe, over 60 foreign countries that are totally defenceless because they don't have the cash. They have impoverished people and they live in the wilderness because they have no right to access to the hygiene and the public services that we used to get for nothing, but now have to contribute to that as a toxic debt pool. Yeah, because the Bank of England has been sold since Waterloo. School of Oriental and African Studies, Centre for International Studies and Diplomacy, University College London, Faculty of It's the Law Dad and the School of Public Policy, University of Bath, where the student loans scandal is run from, Department of Politics, Languages and International Studies, that's Bath and the Rothschild Bank, University of Buckingham, Department of Economics and International Studies, University of East Anglia, where the global warming scam was launched from, Department of Political and Social and International Scams, University of East Anglia, London Academy of Diplomacy. Yeah, that's right across where Michael Grade's empire is. University of Kent, Department of Politics and International Relations, that's run by Baroness Blackstone from the Admiralty buildings. Twice that bitch has rejected me for jobs because she's a criminal and I'm an innocent, and those two cannot be allowed to mix for the sake of the students' freedom, for the whole of their lives and their capacity to own their own homes. University of Portsmouth, Centre for European and International Studies Research, University of Sussex, School of Global Studies, University of Westminster, Department of Politics and International Relations, Webster, the fascists, Nesta Webster's kind, University of Geneva, Department of International Relations. Right then, we're getting down towards the 4th page. Individual donors, President's Circle, Ayman Asfari, Celia and Edward Atkin, Tim Bunting, Richard Hayden, Andre Hoffman, John C. Whitehead. Now Hoffman is the only name I've heard of in that list because Hoffman La Roche is the pharmaceuticals, but it's not spelt the same way. None of the others have I heard of. If any of you are aware of them, please get in touch with me by telephone or give me a call on Skype and we can discuss it and you can expose what these frauds are. My best man is Gavin Brown, yeah? Yeah, and I don't like to talk about him now. He's the one who got hit by lightning twice when I was in New Zealand. This man here on the Director's Circle is Garvin Brown IV, Timothy Jones, Namir Kirdar, Dr. Carlos Bulgaroni, Victor Chu, Honourable Mark E. Leyland, Chris Rokos, Sir Evelyn de Rothschild, the only mention that the bastards get in the whole of this listing. They're ever so clever. They keep all of their profiteering out of the public eye and they let the Queen and Prince Philip and Prince Charles take the fall for all of the world's evil decisions. Michael Hoffman. Right then, Lionel Curtis Group. I think these were the originators, the Curtises, because there's a Curtis in Hollywood in popular culture. I forget what his name was. He was a very attractive person for the female gender in the acting sector. Through their ongoing philanthropic commitments, individuals that comprise the Lionel Curtis Group offer discretionary support to the Institute's core research activities. Yeah, ensuring its independence from any one funding source or agenda. Isn't that humanitarian and a sad reflection on the human condition. The Al-Swadi family, Gavin Boyle, Richard Bram, Stephen Brenninck, Maya, Sir Trevor Chin, CVO, Helen L. Freeman, Ronald M. Freeman, Luciano Gobbi, Bernard Groveman, Charles M. Hales, like Jane Hales, Karen Hale, Sarah Butch, Kerala, Karim Kerala, Monica Machon, Jolana Venio, Dr. Petri Venio, William Pitt Group. We're back into the historic figures in British government. And it keeps going on and on. These are relatively small names. If I see one that I can recognise, there's Frankel's on it. Yeah, the racehorse scandals, and my mate Dave Frankel, who's had a minor heart attack. He's the one that used to, he's got relatives in France, he's got relatives in Hertfordshire, and he came to our wedding with some of the relatives from France, and we went to his wedding, and it was in elite Derbyshire, and even the china in the toilet was engraved with artistic images of lilies of the field and jokes like that, and the stink flowers. Okay, Frankel now fears my power, and he always used to be a very, very lazy man. Yeah, but they're decent enough to stay in touch, and they've come to continue with my persecution as visitors to my own home, which my wife is now going to strip from me. Okay, twice they came to Hexham, they've been to Kelso. Hotang, I've maybe heard of that one. El Khoury, that's in Gordon Bowden and Peter Ayer's stories. Reuben Jeffrey, Hugh Jenkins, politician I think, Donald Kramer, Lovegroves, Michael R. Lynch, that'll be the Merrill Lynch connection, McKennies, Metric, Perils, Pophams, Romers, Simon Rowlands, a survivor of the fascist dynasty, out of Rowlands Gill, near the Devil's Water in Hexham. Caballero, oh crikey, Kirk Cruz, the head of biochemistry, this might be his family. Dr. Allen Sanguines Cruz, Richard Slocum, Kit Tamkin, Pedro Torres, Gareth Williams. Oh, the reason why they had to put the intel man in the bag, and his body doubles from Poland, and he talks to me all the time because he realises his country can be freed really soon. Right then. Oh shit. Donors to the 2013-14 annual fund. If I see a famous one, oh, Garvin Brown's on it. Don't know how many times he's been hit by lightning. Sir Trevor Chin, Joseph Cook. Oh, a Camilla cover, Coelho, Camillo. Greenhawks, Right Honourable Lord Howe of Aberavon, common criminal from the British political sector, now in the second chamber. Right Honourable Lord Hurd of Westwell, CHCBE, police constable. Or mythical legends about the post-nominal names that you're allowed to use in the criminal sector. Sarah Lessig, Sir Richard Lambert, John Leach. That's the Archie Leach joke that is in the Fish Called Wanda film about money laundering, and about the religious joke about the leech who's in the Piso family stories. Okay? Rachel Lomax, that's the devil's advocate's name. It's the Right Honourable Sir John Major, KG.CH. Mirchev, Montaigne, Morgans, Nices, Mosconis, Pophams again, Rosenthal, Sahin, Salaway, Singleton. You remember the people on the Blue Peter programme? There is always a motive for their launch into popular culture. That's Howard Singleton, Pedro Solares, Monica Threlfall, Valerie Williams, John Williams. That would be tragic if that was John Williams, the rugby player, after all of the comments are made on his integrity and his capacity to make a living after he's retired as an amateur rugby player. He was educated, if it is John Williams the fullback, at Imperial College London. On the Wednesday, to toughen up his game, he played on the flank in the forwards. Corporate BP plc, BT Group plc, your pensions may not be that secure after all. If they try and flee with the cash, you will not get any pension and you'll have to go back to work like Sally Magnuson, in inverted commas. The John S. Cohen Foundation, that's the Cohens again, the High Priests of Israel. Sudan Embassy of the Republic of, Turkey Embassy of the Republic of. Quickly, let's go to the business register and have a look at what we find. Okay, that one is a complicated site. Okay, I think what we did was we just looked for Chatham House on the business register. Let's see what I've got. Oh yeah, here we go. So you don't need to publish very much on these listings, but there are 11 companies under the name of Chatham House in the UK Business Register alone. Okay, Manchester House, High Street, Stallbridge, Sturminster, Newton, Dorset, cash £2, net worth £2, assets £2, liabilities Zippo. Can you see why they need external funding? Showing 1 to 10 of 11 company results. That's the top company match with £2 at the bank. Can you see it? It's not my imagination, it's £2 at the bank, a net worth of £2, assets of £2 and liabilities of Zippo. They're solvent. Chatham House Management Limited, Norgate House, Tealgate, Hungerford, where the massacre occurred as a diversion from all of these crimes, right next door to Reading University and the scams of the Ponzi shelves there of Heather Pritchard and the neuroscience frauds, and where they ballistically ejected me out of my innocent job application. Yeah, takes you all the way at the hub of that spoken wheel network into Princess Anne again in the Lawrence ID that she uses as her alias. Okay, and we could look at the directors, but it is pretty pointless. You see the financial giants that I've just profiled you on the 4 to 6 page document that was the PDF that we've just been citing. Yeah, so you've got companies here with assets that range from Zippo at the bank to 750,000. Not any of these listings have got over £1 million. It is a total stitch up, because the millions of quid are laundered into the havens and into the elite directorates through Geneva. From the man that is Prince Charles's advisor and runs the girls' school under St Giles Cathedral. Chatham House Equities Limited, that's one. Hope Street, the Hope is the massive financial dynasty. Glasgow, G2 6PH, active. Company number SC 367 600. Cash £2, net worth minus 7,000, assets £2, liabilities 7,000. That one's not solvent. And it's in socialist Glasgow, which reflects somewhat the plight of the ordinary working man and his investment opportunities and all of his pension hopes. Right then, Chatham House Enterprises, St James's Square, London, SW1 4LE. It's got a massive amount of cash at the bank for a geopolitical organisation that virtually owns the world through the use and the abuse of virtual product scams. Cash 29,000, net worth of only 2. Liabilities 748,000. Yeah, I don't know what the assets are or where they are, but this company is registered at 10 St James's Square, SW1Y4LE. That's right next to Intel, right next to the Parliament Building and both chambers. Chatham House Training and Development Agency. Not surprisingly, they have not given an address for reputational reasons. Active IPO. Isn't that funny? The IPO is the flotation of a stock market opportunistic issue to threaten to steal the shareholdings from the country. They create the shares to enlarge the toxic debt pools, and they keep the holdings for themselves, and there is no cap on the issuance of that. And when they brutalise other countries, they create stock markets in those countries, and they're able to release endless amounts of shares into those countries, and then they cash it in when they visit with their suitcase on the plane run by British Airways with no directors in their boardroom, because it's run by the Cahill man who works for MI6 and is the red-nosed day scamster and the advisor to Gordon Brown, Paddy Ashdown and all of those people that Gordon talks about. Chatham House Investments Limited. No address. Oh yes, they have got an address, this one. Unit 7. Yeah, it's in a lock-up like Del Boy's operations. The Enterprise Centre, Revenge Road, Lordswood, Chatham, Kent. That's Chatham, which has got the word ham in it and is famous for something. I think it's Docklands, where the Navy was launched when it was not being launched out of Baroness Blackstone's Greenwich. Dover and Chatham House Sydenham Limited. Dover is where the White Cliffs are and where we sing about the lovely birds in wartime and everything that happened that allowed Dad's army to protect our country, as Beaverbrook and Churchill made their millions from the warmongering and making the munitions in the aircraft and navy munitions projects from the War Office, even although Winston Churchill had already been disgraced and forced into resignation in Gallipoli, where he fudged it and he killed hundreds of thousands of Anzac troops in 8 months of squalid conflict. One of the biggest causes of death was dysentery. Beacon House Management Chatham Limited, 20 The Midlings, Sevenoaks, Kent. We used to go on the Thames Poly trip to Sevenoaks and the coastal towns. I forget what the name of the coastal towns were, but we were simple people in those days and we had a great time. And we once visited Paris. Yeah, and we went across on the ferry, and one of my colleagues from Pakistan, or an Asian person on the PhD program, lost their passport, but we managed to negotiate our way home the same evening, because my boss was a diplomat, but he pretended to be a socialist. And when Mrs. Thatcher scammed the socialists out of the last term in her office, my boss had a massive heart attack, and he's had an artificial heart ever since. I don't know if he's still breathing. Chatham House LLP, Hope Street again, hopelessly in a financial plight. Cash £9, net worth minus 1,491, assets £9, liabilities 2,500. Chatham House Interiors Limited. This might be an interlock with the Rothschilds wallpaper empire out of Mayfair in London, but no, it's in St John's House, St John's Road, Penn, Buckinghamshire, the no bombing zone, dissolved. Okay, next page. Have we got time? Chatham House Equities, G2X2XD, let's see where that is. Wellington Street, Glasgow. Isn't that funny? That's the central bank joke again. Wellington's triumph then becomes Rothschild's triumph, and then it becomes ABBA's triumph in the Eurovision Song Contest. Right then. and we could look at their financial status, because they don't declare it on that front page. Now we've got non-limited companies at the bottom. Let's have a quick look just in case. Chatham House Care Home, that could be Tavistock. Let's have a look. For the decrepit victims who get as far as the pension and beyond the acts of God, but it's not. Well, it might be. Bridgewater, Somerset, close to Tavistock. That's the Somerset levels, which were very, very wet indeed. Bridgewater. Okay, Chatham House Care Home, 373134. I did not look at that.
A bunch of matches, a skateboard,
oh, we've got an ad kicking in. And can you guess who the CEO is going to be? Chatham House Care Home. This is the structure of it. The CEO is Mr. John Smith, like the CEO at the Lothian and Borders Police, Miss Patricia Tom, my wife's divorce solicitor from Canada, and all of the scams that are exposed as scams by me, only by me. None of the others talk about it. Okay, Mr. John Smith, branch manager. Isn't that clever? If he was Germany, it would be Johann Schmidt. Same trick as they used in World War II and all of the Hogan's Heroes comedies through all of their history, through all of the 50s, the 60s, the 70s and a big chunk of the 80s. They're laughing at the war dead and the profiteering that Bing Crosby, who's the director of Hogan Heroes, engages in his war bond scam. Right then, let's see what else we've got. So did you see, did you get the gravity of that sin? To be a royal, to understand the religious fraud, then to put your acronym of the Religious Institution for International Affairs, RIAA, and you link it to the maRIIA joke about the Virgin and the mother of our false Messiah, who saved everybody's souls. Yeah, isn't that really funny? You swallow that and you're more gullible than I took you for, but that's the reason you're poor and that Prince Charles never needs to account for himself. Right then, and I'll go back to the listings, because this gives us, this is the European companies that are associated with the name RIAA, Raya Hino. So that's the rhino joke. Do you get it? Raya Hino. Pori, I don't know which country that is, they have not got the courage to name it. The maRIIA one is also unidentified. Did we get a street address for that? No. Accounts not available. Street address not available. Nothing is available. It's a scam. Yeah, it's a scandal. Directors, because it's in Europe, nothing is available. Let's have a look. No, sorry, there is no current director information for this joke. Sorry, company. Right then, what else have we got? So, Rhino, maRIIA, Ria Virtanen, don't get that one. Maybe you can explain it to me. Pori again, don't know where the hell that is. Mutu Ria, do you get that one? I don't get that one. Ria Rahala, Pori again. Timmy Ria Haltia, Timmy Ria Haltia, Timiria, no, don't get that one either. Humalistic Kutu Turku, that looks like Turkey, but one can only guess. Kuntu Palvelu Ria Kopinen, don't get any of the other ones, it's far too sophisticated for me. That's Pori again, that one's Vanta, that one's Espu. Ria Virtanen. Okay, so there are several pages that, let's just keep going in case we get another one that I do understand and is just a belly laugh for the world's elites. Timia Ria Latinen, Lindblom Ikonen, No, don't get any of them. Riaman, Lindblom, Ikonen again. Helsinki, oh that's famous. Finland, I believe. So Helsinki's there twice, and we've got two identical names with two identical company numbers. That is kind of against the law. The company number is 194763332, and the company number for the second one is 194763332. Street address Heitel Hakaden Dakaka 3A Helsinki 0180 Finland. Same street address for the other Ponzi shelf. Isn't that tragic that the world is prepared to allow its leaders to run us this way into the ground? Espoo Tampere, I cannot get the jokes. Physiotherapeutic, I'll get this one. Can you see it? Physiotherapeutics REA Jacola. No, I don't get the funny bit at the end, but that's cola. Yeah, you have to be quite deviant to get all of their jokes. Design Ria Anna Elena, Parturi Campona, and Finland again. All of those are in Finland. Next page. Paulin Bernard. Now I had a guy that played bowls with me. He was a bank manager, Johnny Paulin, and his brother played too. They were ancient characters. They reminded me of the Dad's Army movies and the really old crusty people in them. And they were ever so good at bowling, and I don't know whether they were ever so innocent at banking, but I played with them when I was just a teenager, and I got a lot of maturity from conversations with the elders in our town. And at that time the banksters were not nearly as vicious as they have become since the noughties came upon us. Okay, so Directors 3, I'm not sure I looked at this last night. Ria Monte, they will be institutional institutions. Oh, there's Bernard Paulin again. Let's have a wee look at his directors in case there's anything sensational. Bristol. Yeah, the epicentre for laundering. Okay, registered address flat 1 Stoke Cliff House, 114 Park Road, Stapleton, Bristol Avon, BS16 1DT. Ria Christina Bernard Paulin. And what do we get? It's green for go for the cash. Stoke Cliff House, Mr. Nicholas Beckett, Mr. Nils Hellberg, Mr. Timothy William Veer Jordan, Miss Judith Ann Brickwood, London fucking Law Services Limited, 18,848 crashed of the 19,200 companies ran. Jason Putterill, Ria Christina Bernard Paulin, Hoggs, Catherine Mary Brain, Walfred Bernards, yeah. Oh, and we've got another set of corrupted companies that crash them and pump and dump. Okay, relatively minor, nothing you can do once it gets out of Britain into Europe in chunks of under $1 million at a time. Okay, some of the companies are huge, and this is one of them that I picked up last night. So what we've got is a trail of information that takes us from the Royal Institute of International Affairs and some of their interlocking directors through a man called Roger Taylor, and we find this character called Robert Phillis, and his address is and it's quite tragic that the world can allow this to happen to it, the Old Vicarage, High Street, Wargraves, Berkshire, RG10 8DH. That's the Old Vicarage, Robert Phillis. And I've looked at his directorial interlocks, and it takes you into people like the person who was the boss at Cuba. Takes you into Burns, Morrison's. The Phillis is a given. Oswald Kosek, Christopher John Taylor, David Gormley. Yeah, politicians everywhere. Look at this. Combined nominees, combined secretarial. 28 of 29,000 companies crashed. 56,000 of 58,000 crashed by the same twisted directors and secretarial services that do their dirty work in less than a fortnight. Okay. Christopher William Turner, Kinloch, Isaacs, Simmons. Not sure why I highlighted this one. Honourable ENVOY Channon, Real and Smooth Limited, Inhoko, Arthur Andrew Miller. Oh yeah, and look at the numbers that they're busting. A&C Secretarial, Tranter, I think that was a Doctor Who at one time. Loveting, the Lovets are the Jews on the river that own the River Tweed in part. There we have Mr. Nicholas Castro. Do you remember the Castros? Arthur Miller is the man that wrote the witchcraft stories about Salem in America. And I think that's still on the Kelso curriculum. God bless them. Everything's ever such old jokes. And it's really good because that means that the old alumni understand the jokes still. Oh, we've got a Howard, Miss Catherine Francis Howard. Sergeants in Nominees Limited, 224 of the 458 crashed. Sergeants in, links to the forces and the city and guilds. Beswitheric. Boardman. Do you get that joke now? The whiteboard joke? Replacing the blackboard and the slaves, and the whiteboards are the profiteers all over the world. CSEC Limited, GMG Investco 2 Limited, all of the hallmarks of Ponzi shelves, ran by the witchcraft master. I'm not sure why I highlighted. There's Castro again. Instant Companies Limited, 120,000 of 122,000 busted. Oh, and we've got Coulson's in the financial criminal sector and in the phone tapping sector, but this one does not have the U in the spelling of his surname. And we've got Mr. Patrick Vincent O'Brien. That could be the Archbishop. Let's have a look and see if he's on the Lothian coast. Strange that he's not using his clerical titles. No, he's in Essex where the loose women are. Yeah, and the man called Hitchcock runs the heavily armed military police force. Yeah, out of Essex. Oh, it's ever so slow. Let's see what the other sites are that I had opened. Stokecliffe. Well, that's the Pollen site. What's this one? Oh, that's the one we've done. So, do you see it? It is a massive institution. It's allowed to get away with murder, and all of the profiteering is condoned, and everything that Gordon Bowden and I have disclosed about those massive lists of companies, take them into university leaders. The Holic man is all over one of these listings. It may be on that one that we're still working down, but yeah, it's massive, this one. I think he had somewhere like 500 listings, company listings. Roger Froome Lawton, Richard Fox, Pankhurst, Minus, Baker, Reeves, Townsend, Vicar, instant companies again. Mr. David Waldorf Astor, the elites across our country. Don't know what this company is. Smooth Radio Investments Limited. Yeah, it may not exist. You don't need to have a company to make millions from it. Nicholas Castro, Spear, Buckley, Holt, Watts, Appleby, the Honourable Robert Anthony Raine, Sir Robert Weston Phillis, Sir Henry John Roche. That may not be the pharma magnates. Mr. Colin David Everett. That could be the Hexham Mafias. Thank you, Gail Everett, for responding to my jocular exposure of Michael Moore's criminality in the P&O shipping sector in which you work. And it's really good that Michael Moore is prepared to let you allow you to continue as his Facebook friend as he shrinks away from everything I reveal about what he does to the world and its innocent investors and savers. Swift and corporations again. 263,000 of 266 crashed. Daybreak Television Holdings Limited. That may not be the Fox News empire, but he's got a knighthood. Mr. Clive Timms, Mr. Nicholas David Anthony Greenstone, Lord Belwyn, Lord Clive Richard Hollick of Notting Hill, Lord Irwin Norwin Belwyn, Mr. Max MacDonald Hastings, the head of the Scotsman for a time, or it might even have been one of the big English papers, Fishes the River Tweed, ever so well spoken. Yeah, and ever so nervous now that the acts of God are occurring. Look at the revolutionary red sunset out there. Oh, it doesn't come out so well on my Kodak camera, because the Kodak name and the Eastman name takes us into Hemel Hempstead, which is a pile of shit. Right then. Mr. Roger Froome Lawton again. Miss Lisbeth Saville, ever such a posh spelling. I don't know whether or not Jimmy was wedded. Daybreak Television. Clive Timms, Lord Clive Richard Hollick of Notting Hill, Lord Irwin Norwin Belwyn, Mr. Max MacDonald Hastings. Do you see the concept of the Ponzi scheme again and again and again? Sir Robin Day. Now there's a voice from the past, victim of his act of God years ago, the wearer of the little butterfly under his shirt collar, and a crock of shit comes out of his mouth all of the time, and our country is in a massive plight because of that and the cover-ups of our government's crimes. ITN Radio Investments Limited. This is false news, big time. Mr. Mark William Wood. Emery, everything is a joke about the woodwork, the lamination, the trees, the shrubbery, the Ave Maria, the Avenue Maria. It's really, really sickening. Sir Robert Weston Phillis. Mr. Clive Timms again. Corporate Television Networks Limited. Honourable Stephen Hartwig Willoughby Watson. Miss Rosanna Manuelo Macado. There's a Watson in it. Don't know whether or not Sherlock Holmes is still trading in the false news sector, but none of the crimes ever get solved unless I'm on the case. Sir Michael Vernon Lockett. Lockett away in Fort Knox. Mr. Hubert Cyprian Rodriguez. Mr. Alexander Bennett Paul Hornby Northcote. Biggers, Gordons, Mysteries, Wheatleys, the Professor Wheatley in physiology in Dunedin that had a near fatal cancer was able to escape to Cork University, where he got well again. And none of the stories that you hear are credible. Okay, Mervyn Douglas Hall, Michael Pledge, Mr. Nicholas Crosby, oh they're still at it, Miss Susan Mifanwi Tinson, Right Honourable Lord Richard Gordon Home, not Douglas Home, but Gordon Home, Sir Robert Weston Phyllis, Mr. Divyang Champlak Mystery, Mr. Stephen Thomas Lloyd, RTS Enterprises Limited. Let's keep going till we get to something sensational. Mr. Grant Murray, Mr. Richard Freudenstein, Mr. Simon Sharps. There are Sharps in government. Mr. Michael John Bunce, Mr. Thomas Michael Gillan Guttridge, McMahons, Wonfors, Fairbairns, Scots, Stuart Lightings, Sally Osmond, Sarah Thane, Susan Janet Robertson, Sir Robert Weston Phyllis. Oh, we've got a pilgrim. Mr. John Glenn Gow, Guardian Education Interactive, Miss Emma Marie Secan, Miss Sarah Andrea Davis, Mr. Philip Mark Tranter, the Doctor Who link again. Previous directors: Lissus Rael, Loveting, Applebams, Alou, Mr. Keith Coleman, Mr. Nicholas Castro. This one's interesting. Mr. Paul John Naismith, the man who launders into the block of flats up the back of Finchley Road and is the advisor to the Scottish Government. He's the one that does the legacies in people's wills, and he lives in central Scotland, in the same town that my mate Scott, who visited us in New Zealand with his wife, who's now a racehorse owner, yeah, runs the massive hotel called King's Knows in Galashiels. Yeah, they live in the same town as Naismith, and Naismith's followers come to the Church of Scotland to find out how much I know about that man's laundering crimes, and I know a lot. And they don't trouble to come back the following week. Terry Waite, have you heard of him? Mr. Terence Waite, massive fees for public speaking in the persecution of the Holy Lands and all of the stories they make up. Timothy Stephen Brooks, Stella Beaumont, sergeants in nominees again. Television for the Environment. Jamie Christian Drummond, every fraud is wrapped into the belly laugh. Hanson's, Lord St. John of Blestow, Mayor Khan, Mr. Adrian Alexander Christian Phillips, Mr. David Vinge Nostbakken, Mr. Frederick Adrian Osborne, not necessarily related to the Chancellor. 14 of his 18 companies crashed. We could take a look at that, but I prefer to go to the bottom. Mr. John Mills, the Becky Mills that gets raped by the Indians in America, where we started off on yesterday's video. Okay, Mr. Raymond Johansson, Mr. Robert Peter St. George, Mr. Rupert Michael Walter James Dilnot Cooper. That's the Cooperian Indians joke, and the fact that some people pretend that they were treating them in a civilized way and pretended that they understood how the Indians were able to keep the continent stable and to feed themselves on the buffalo without the buffalo disappearing in numbers as soon as the white man comes on shore. Mr. Soren Herman Sylvester Disregard, Jagos, Guns, Mr. Tor Johan Breivik, that's the serial killer, yeah, who's in 2 places in the capital city of Norway and killing all of the Labour youngsters at their meeting in a distant place. Ever so clever that he can murder them in both locations. Mr. Victor Sutton, the Sutton School, the stories that we get about Professor Sutton being the most informed man in the world, yeah, and him being suppressed. Vivarelli's, oh, Kofi Anand, not necessarily his missus. If she is his missus, she's the Rothschild that they call the Angel of Death. That's one of the six Jewish angels. Front, back, east, west, north, south. North, south is heaven, and Hales in Paris. Miss Carol Ann Haslam. Oh, we've got ages to go. Look where the tab is, and look how long the page is. Yeah, this kept me up beyond midnight last night. Sharon Lynn Robinson, the Robinson joke all over again. Morar, the Falls of Morar, beautiful places. Okay. Endemol UK Limited, Mr. Lucas Jack Richard Church, Justinus Jacobus Bernardus Maria Spee, Timothy Hinks, John Russell Parsons, Alistair Stephen Tom, the Canadian power base again. Yeah, one of the vast tracts of land in Canada is governed by the Toms. My wife's divorce solicitor, she has various different initials in front of her name. She looks after care homes. She was the council lawyer for a long time. Relatively innocent in the scale of things that I've revealed about the Royal Institute for International Affairs. Everybody is in league with the monarchs and stealing from the ordinary people. A Brook, De Mols, Gerrys, Bassettis, Brahams, Ungers, Clarks, Castros, Cowleys, Mr. Richard Piers Bacon, Mr. Rood Hendricks, Barneycoats, Cheethams, Calmuls, Miss Virginie Jean Christian Calmuls, the ships of the desert, all present at Jesus' birthplace. Ronaldus Antonius Maria Goes. That could be something about our sexual mores, but I do not want to speculate. Sir Henry John Roche again, Sir Peter Lytton Basil Gett, Enon Cries, Mr. Alistair Stephen Tom, 57 of 57 crashed. ITV Central, oh, this is Eleanor Kate Irving. I've profiled her before. Their spoken wheel model takes you right into the big wigs of this world. And Holick again, okay. Helen Jane Tots, she's a launderer. And one of my bosses in pharma was an Irving. Okay. Upshaw's Cantors, Miss Casimira Teresa Cantor. Pankhursts, Allens, Christopher Joseph Swords, Crofts, McCullochs, James Benjamin St John Tibbets, Maddox, Roderick Waldemar Lil Henwood. Pork, the chicken and egg joke keeps coming in. That's the Humpty Dumpty, and all the king's horses and all the king's men cannot put the religious myth back together again and let him rise from the dead. Sir Michael Thomas Lyons, Sir Patrick Dalmahoy Nairn, Sir Richard John Bailey, Mr. Colin Alexander Campbell, David Abdu, Helen Jane Tots, the launderer, Radio Investments again, Alistair William Mackenzie, Fennels, Carnegie's, but with a different spelling, and with the word king slipped in the form of Roy. That's Roi, the king. David Oliphant Kinloch, Humphrey Alexander Lloyd, 53 of 64 crashed. John Hubert McBean, John Sanderson, that could be the Sandersons of Bowden, 51 of 65 crashed, right next door to the Castros, but not in a regional sense.